On the hit list this time, 9 top live acts who cross genres and generations as they make the crowd go wild.
I am awesome! Woo! Rock and roll!
The pint-sized popster from Pennsylvania always felt she was destined for something special.
I don't know, it's so funny. Like, I think about that sometimes. When I was little, I was like, all right, I'm gonna grow up, I'm gonna change the world, I'm gonna be a rock star.
Born Alicia Beth Moore, Pink's Vietnam veteran dad Jim passed down his love of music and penchant for partying. But even though her mum may have despaired of the wild teenager who tried heroin and had a lesbian lover before she was 16, Pink always believed she'd be a star. Much to her parents' relief, she was right.
I always said I was gonna do it, and they just didn't believe me. And my mom sometimes is like, I can't believe that you made this all happen. Like, yeah, I told you so.
By the age of 22, she'd already released 2 hit solo albums, won a Grammy Award, and built a reputation for being one of the smartest and most sassy women in pop. Not to mention one of the industry's top live performers. For her I'm Not Dead tour, she rolled out some pretty spectacular circus tricks, including performing acrobatics while suspended meters above the stage in strips of silk.
I don't like anything that's not dangerous, so there's definite danger. We had to change out our motors because they broke, and I got hogtied in the air at about 30 feet. That wasn't fun. Night number 2. It's fun. It's fun, especially when you can scare the crap out of everyone that's working on the tour every night. Makes you feel good.
Despite her crazy schedule, she hasn't forgotten her childhood commitment to changing the world and regularly cashes in on her celebrity to stick her neck out for a raft of social and humanitarian causes. In 2006, she blasted fellow singer Beyonce for wearing fur. In 2008, she got behind the campaign to end cruelty to horses in New York City. For Pink, the ability to turn the spotlight on important social issues comes with the privilege of being a celebrity.
Someone likes your music or likes what you do, or knows that you have a tendency of pissing people off, they'll want to know, what's she doing this time? So whether they agree with it or not, they'll have an awareness, oh, I didn't even think about that. Oh, I didn't even think that would be cruel.
Hello. I'm very famous. There's so many people here. I must be really famous.
Indeed he is. In 2006, he broke the world record by selling 1.6 million concert tickets in a single day for his world tour. He sold more albums than any other solo British artist. He talks about himself in the third person, but for some reason Robbie Williams can't quite crack the US.
And why I'm not as big in the States is because over the course of the 7 albums that I've had out, I've spent 2 months promoting my albums in America. I've actually spent longer than that in France. You know, everybody keeps going on about how Robbie Williams hasn't broken the States. You know, Robbie Williams really hasn't tried to break the States because Robbie Williams hasn't been that bothered.
And he was quite content with the way things had gone since his split from Take That in 1995.
I'm really happy. I'm really enjoying being a pop star. You know, it's I think that in the last 2 years I've started to enjoy everything that's coming into my life, and I'm very lucky to be where I am, and I know that. You know, all of you people turn up to ask me questions, and it's exciting, you know, and stuff like this happens every day. I'm not saying 200 people turn up to ask me questions in my bedroom, but exciting things happen to me all the time, and you know, I'm just enjoying myself and enjoying it.
Contrary to his claims of contentment, cracks started to appear soon after, when he decided to move to LA. In 2007, he underwent a spell in rehab in Arizona for dependency on prescription drugs. After finally enjoying some success on the US dance club charts with songs like Love Light, She's Madonna and We're the Pet Shop Boys, he announced he was moving back to the UK in December 2008. Since then, rumours have abounded that he could be thinking about reuniting with the recently reformed Take That. Far from denying the rumours, Robbie has confirmed that he loves the idea of being back in the gang and has been quoted as saying, "We got together a lot over the summer. It was amazing. We've all matured a lot since we parted. I'm very pleased to say the differences we've had have just melted away." One artist who knows how to whip a crowd into a frenzy is Beyonce Knowles. Wherever she touches down, she has fans gushing over her live shows.
Beyonce, I think she's a total, overall, rounded entertainer. बहुत अच्छा गाती हैं. Of course, she's a great showman, and I'm here to see her.
Beyonce said of her own stage persona, "I have someone else that takes over when it's time for me to work and when I'm on stage. This alter ego that I've created kind of protects me and who I really am." Ahead of the release of her 2006 album B-Day, she held auditions for an all-female band called Sugar Mama to back her on her 2007 tour, The Beyonce Experience. The extravagant world tour, which took in Europe, Asia and Latin America, boasted costumes by Armani, Versace, Hervé Leger and her mum Tina, who has designed her costumes since she started out as a teenager with Destiny's Child.
First time I heard myself on the radio was actually picking my little sister up from school, who's not a little sister anymore, but then she was a baby, and it was all of the girls from Destiny's Child. And as soon as we pulled up, the bell rang, and we heard "No, no, no" on the radio, and we ran out of the car. We ran around the car and dropped everything and were screaming, and it was like a movie scene.
Destiny's Child, which also included Beyonce's childhood best friends, Kelly Rowland and Latavia Robertson, went on to become the biggest-selling female group of all time, winning Beyonce a swag of Grammy Awards. In 2001, at the age of 20, she also became the first black woman to win Songwriter of the Year from the American Society of Composers, Authors and Publishers. At 25, the overachieving songstress had built up a phenomenal CV. Aside from the musical accolades, she'd begun putting together an impressive film career, which began with the made-for-TV film Carmen Hip Hop. Other movies have included the Austin Powers sequel Goldmember, The Pink Panther and Dreamgirls. Back in the spotlight in a big way at the end of 2008, she was celebrating her starring role as Etta James in The Story of Cadillac Records, and the release of her third studio album, I Am Sasha Fierce. Alternative rockers Radiohead were recently voted the 5th best live band of all time in a British poll. Back in 2002, they took out the auspicious title of Best Band in the World at London's Q Awards. Despite garnering such lofty accolades over the course of the past 18 years for their classic albums like OK Computer, The Bends and Kid A, the boys from Abingdon have struggled to get their just rewards from record companies.
We basically signed away the copyrights to all our recordings, and we knew we were doing that. And you know, only the really very few, very successful artists ever get their copyrights back. But that, to me, has always been. I've always felt that you know, we understood the agreement we were going into, but I've always felt we'd never had a choice. There was something fundamentally unfair about that.
After releasing 6 albums and a greatest hits, they decided it was time to take matters into their own hands and decided to release their 7th album in rainbows over the internet, and were very pleased with the result.
With Radiohead, we've done a load of webcasts, which are always inspiring. We now have the ability to literally record a track in a day if we were able to do that, mix it, press a button, it's out there, that moment. So those are incredibly exciting times.
Instead of setting a price for the downloads, fans were invited to decide what they were worth.
I would pay $10 for Radiohead.
I would actually probably pay $10, I think. I like Radiohead. Seems like a fair price.
They backed up their offer of free music on the internet with a free live gig in London's East End.
Having the album for free on the internet, these kind of events make Radiohead really different. The music is different, the whole approach of Radiohead is different. Love it.
Proving that they were just too good to be true, they also unveiled their blueprint for environmentally friendly touring.
We've bought all these crazy solar power generators that cost us a fortune. We having to ship all our equipment because we're no longer allowed to fly it. And this was all on the basis of a carbon footprint study that we had done from the last period of touring we did.
When grunge legends Pearl Jam announced they would be touring outside the US for the first time in 6 years, ticket touts in London could name their price.
Been a fan for like 5 years, loved every song I've ever heard. So you become a big fan over the years, and I've been waiting 6 years since their last gig. Had to be here for it.
I paid £175. Oh,
150.
But we know that people have bought them for £500.
Meanwhile, over in Brazil, fans had endured an even longer wait to see their heroes. I don't know how to explain it. We've been waiting for 15 years. It's the best band in the world. That band sprang up as part of the original grunge scene in Seattle in the early 90s. And still includes original members Eddie Vedder, Jeff Ament, Stone Gossard and Mike McCready, who've been joined by ex-Soundgarden drummer Matt Cameron. They broke into the mainstream with their debut album 10 in 1991 and have gone on to sell around 60 million albums worldwide. Despite all the fame and fortune, rather like Radiohead, they've remained very conscious of social and political issues and put their money where their mouth is when it comes to the environment.
There's a million ways to look at the kind of impact you're having on the planet. We're looking at, our supply chains, we're looking at where our CDs are manufactured, what kind of chemicals go into those, how far they have to fly, what are the working conditions of the people that work at those factories. I mean, it goes back endlessly. That's what I hope is the future, is doing a full assessment of the band's impact on the planet and doing everything we can to try to counteract as much of the bad stuff that we do as compared to the good stuff, I guess.
Looking back over Pearl Jam's evolution upon the release of their self-titled 8th album, they acknowledged it hadn't been an easy ride.
15 years ago, we were pretty rough and raw in terms of how we approached one another, and I think sometimes we probably stepped on one another occasionally trying to get our idea across.
I think all of us in the band have had different struggles with each other.
It seems like the easiest job in the world, and in some ways it could be. But I think we put it on ourselves to make it hard. It wasn't always pleasant, but I think that positive things came out of it.
Elton John may be from the old school of rock and roll, but he still knows how to get them dancing in the aisles.
He's just extraordinary, Elton. He's got what we call staying power. I saw him first when I was 14 years old at the American School in London, wearing those great big platform heels.
Fantastic. Mind-blowing. Don't know what else to say.
His discography includes 7 consecutive US #1 albums and more than 50 top 40 hits. The 5-time Grammy winner was born Reginald Kenneth Dwight in northwest London in 1947. A piano prodigy at the age of 4, he formed his own band at 17. 3 years later, he teamed up with lyricist Bernie Taupin, and in 1970, he struck gold with his second album entitled simply Elton John. His piano-based rock and roll cut through in a world dominated by guitar heroes and spawned hits like Crocodile Rock, Daniel and Rocket Man, before his personal life took a nosedive in the mid-70s, which saw him battling bulimia and addictions to drink and drugs. His comeback in 1980 was celebrated with a free concert in New York Central Park in front of 40,000 fans. Since then, his many hits have provided the soundtrack to a roller coaster life that has included plenty of bereavement and money troubles, as well as a short-lived marriage to a female sound engineer, followed by an announcement that he was homosexual, and his subsequent marriage to longtime partner David Furnish. Along the way, he's also composed the music to several stage musicals, including the worldwide smash Billy Elliot. Upon turning 60 in 2007, he proved he's also a huge hit with his fellow celebrities, largely due to his incredible commitment to his AIDS Foundation, which has seen him raise millions of dollars through his extravagant annual parties.
Every time I see him, I kiss him. And I wish him well, because he's a real shining light in our lives, and we adore him.
No wonder Sir Elton is pretty happy with the way things have turned out.
I honestly feel I couldn't have asked for a better life. I mean, I wanted to be involved in music, whether it was working in a record store, whether it was working at publishers, whether it was writing, whether it was... I didn't envisage ever being a singer. That happened by accident.
In 1994, the price of tickets to Barbra Streisand's first concert tour in 27 years topped out at $1,500. Despite the exorbitant tag, the entire tour was sold out in under an hour, making her the highest-paid concert performer in history. 12 years later, at the age of 64, she was showing younger stars the way by smashing records again and grossing a staggering $92.5 million over just 20 dates in America, without any bells or whistles.
The show is quite different. It's really about the music. The music and me, it's much simpler. I don't have any pyrotechnics or trap doors, except sort of one. But no, it's just the music and me.
Even without a sumptuous stage show, fans over in London were happy to hand over £500 a ticket.
She's worth every penny. If you get a chance to see her, go and see her. She may not be around for much longer, but at the moment, fantastic.
Much of that was being siphoned off for worthy causes.
Money for great charities that I believe in. You know, there's so much to be done in the world today, and certainly even medical research for women and fighting against nuclear proliferation, global warming. So many good things to do in the world that I have to raise money, you know.
Born in Brooklyn in 1942, Barbara's career kicked off in a gay bar in Manhattan's Greenwich Village in 1960. 3 years later, she was opening for Liberace in Las Vegas. And by the end of the following year, she'd proved that she could also act. Her starring role on Broadway as Fanny Brice in Funny Girl was turned into Hollywood gold in 1968, when she won an Oscar for nailing the same part in the big screen version. In 2004, she returned to acting after an 8-year hiatus to play Ben Stiller's mother in the much-anticipated sequel to the comedy blockbuster Meet the Parents. The need to prove to herself she could still act was just one of her reasons for saying yes to Meet the Fockers.
It was time to be funny, and they just really wanted me to be in it. That it was Ben wanted to be his mom, and Jay wanted it directly, and I just thought, what the hell? You know, I didn't have to work 5 days a week, so it wasn't.
Good experience.
It was fun. Yeah.
Family band Kings of Leon are relative newcomers to the world of headlining stadium gigs. Made up of 3 brothers and their cousin, the alternative rockers from Tennessee got together in 2000, claiming that their music was equally influenced by their religious upbringing and Jack Daniel's whiskey. Over the course of 4 albums, they steadily gathered critical and commercial cred, just about everywhere other than in their home country, until they finally struck platinum with their 5th studio album, Only by Night, which was nominated for 3 Grammys.
It feels good to get to say I told you so to all these people at the, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you always want to be successful where you're from, you know, and you know, it was kind of bittersweet being huge, you know, the rest of the world. Then we would come home and no one even knew who we were in America. So, you know, it feels great, man. I mean, who would have thought that, you know, we would be nominated for Grammys and.
Suddenly, their live services were in huge demand. Having already learned from the best with support tours of U2, The Strokes, Pearl Jam and Bob Dylan, they were more than ready to headline the Pyramid stage at Glastonbury, as well as taking top billing at Tea in the Park and the Oxygen and V festivals. They followed those up by full stadium tours of Australia and the UK. However, they didn't quite fit the sex, drugs and rock and roll image.
Now we bring our girlfriends on the road. Like,
we watch Sex and the City. We like having big, strong men around us that makes us feel like we're celebrities. It's like, please, you have to be here. There's going to be a lot of 13-year-old girls here. I don't trust those Jonas Brother fans.
But that's not to say that they don't enjoy some of the more traditional trappings of being rock stars. For instance, they partied so hard in the studio, Caleb forgot they'd even recorded one of the songs on the album. Thankfully, all the songs on Only by Night were memorable enough to land them 3 nominations for the 2009 Brit Awards. They seemed a little nervous ahead of the show.
So how are you feeling, first of all, to be here tonight?
Good. It's amazing to be here. Amazing to be nominated. This is the most stressful part, though. Yeah, we're not used to this.
Yeah, once this is over, we're good.
Good enough to take out Best International Act and Best International Album. Flashy indie rock band The Killers are famous for pulling out all the stops at their live gigs, from fake plastic palm trees to feather-shouldered velvet jackets. Flamboyant lead singer Brandon Flowers believes the band's aptitude for showmanship stems from their early exposure to bright lights and spectacular entertainment.
There's a lot of heaven and God and devil in there. I guess it's a pull. It's a constant push and pull within this. I think growing up in Las Vegas really prepared me to be in a rock and roll band.
Their first album, Hot Fuss, released in 2004, went 4 times platinum in the US, spawning 3 hit singles, including the high-octane smash Somebody Told Me, which continues to go off at gigs.
Every time it starts up, I just think, you know, the crowd usually just lights up the second the intro starts, and I just know that one's going over good, and it's a fun song to play live.
Next came Sam's Town, which Brandon confidently declared would be one of the best albums of the last 20 years. Reviews were mixed, but they ended up scoring 2 Brits and an MTV Europe award.
Yeah, it means a lot to be kind of recognized, you know, among these other great artists here, and it's good to be kind of, you know, thrown in with the bunch, I guess.
However, they didn't let the accolades and self-confidence make them complacent, as they worked on their 3rd original album, Day and Age.
We're constantly developing, which is the idea, I guess, is to grow, and you don't want to get stuck. And so we became a really, I think we became a really great live band during Sam's Town touring, and I think we used that to our advantage while making this album. Everybody's kind of at their strongest. And it's really, I think it shows on the songs.
Those songs included the lead single, Human. Rolling Stone magazine dubbed the line, Are We Human or Are We Dancer? Classic Killers nonsense, while Rolling Stone's readers voted it Best Song of 2008 and helped to deliver the band another US Top 40 hit. Brandon puts the Killers' success down to not being afraid of making fools of themselves.
We didn't have those inhibitions because we're not from New York, or we're not from, you know, I think there's a lot of that comes from being around all these other bands in these cities, and it's really, I think it's fear, and we just didn't have it.